Welcome to Monday night's Young Entrepreneur Syndicate call. We are glad to have you here. If you're not live, you'll be listening later. We're still glad to have you here. And tonight's topic is good. Heidi and I were just talking before we hit record about life. And life is just in your face, isn't it? It's always there. There's not anything we can do except deal with it, take what comes, but we can take control where we can, like making dinner, or in Jim's case tonight, making dinner for his family who's off at ballet on Monday nights. So life is good, and we know that, but we also know how hard it can be. So tonight's topic goes right into that. Tonight's topic, and how is it officially worded? Don't worry, right? Let's see, I'm looking it up because I stop worrying. That's how tonight's topic was listed. Stop worrying. So sometimes people, and I'll use a little thing from my wife's business. My wife's line of work is midwifery, and she's in a point where, I mean, this is life giving unto life, right? And there are times when women, for example, where they are bleeding after delivery, there's an uncontrolled bleed, and there are drugs they can take, there are shots they can administer, there are different forms of compression they can use, and sometimes the bleeding is still there. And my wife has literally looked women in the eyes and said, "You need to stop bleeding now." And at that moment, they just look, and they do. They do. When all else fails, you can give a command. So tonight's command is don't worry. Stop worrying. It's that simple. If you're not going to do it on your own, do it because someone's telling you. And tonight I'm telling you, if you're listening to this tomorrow morning, the next day, stop worrying. It is not going to do anything for you. Yeah, I love the look on your face. I hope that's because of what I'm saying and not somebody in the other room mooning you or something. So you never know with Zoom. Okay, so here we go. Don't worry. I'm going to give you some statistics on worrying to scare you into believing what I have to say tonight. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories too. But first, my favorite, and I'm going to go biblical on you because I use sources from all over. So wherever you come from, this is truth no matter what the source. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Don't be anxious about anything. And that's really what worry is, isn't it? It's just being anxious. My wife has always said, and I've said on this show before, the thinking about it is the worst part. Once you start acting, the worry goes away. But the thinking about it is it. Thank you, Heidi. It is. It's Philippians 4:6. Yes. So worrying is just a mental state, and you are in control of your mental state. So stop worrying. So my first thing is this. We all heard the song, "Don't worry, be happy." Don't worry, be happy. I'm changing it up. Whenever you think about that song, I want you to think about what Rod Kuntz says instead of that song. Change the words to "Don't worry, be happy," from "Don't worry to be happy" to "Don't worry, take action." Don't worry, take action. And at the end of this call, I'm going to give you 8 action steps that you can take that will actually help stop the worrying. But beforehand, we're going to talk about some of the detrimental effects of worry. So this is the scared straight portion of tonight's talk. Number 1, cardiovascular health. Chronic stress, worriers, it's linked to heart disease, high blood pressure, and stroke. In fact, the American Journal of Cardiology found that individuals with high anxiety levels were 48% more likely to experience cardiovascular events. That should scare you. That's almost half. Half of the people who are chronic worriers. You get into upper management. People are climbing the corporate ladder, and all of a sudden, if they can't handle the stress, they're literally bargaining 50-50 for a heart attack. I don't like the odds. I don't want anyone in the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate to be facing those odds. Number 2, the obvious one, mental health. Excessive worry is a core component of anxiety disorders. It only affects 6.8 million adults annually in the US. I think we've got us an issue, right? According to the World Health Organization, anxiety and depression together cost the global economy an estimated $1 trillion annually in lost productivity. So if you're the entrepreneur and you're the one who's suffering from mental health, diminished capacity in whatever form, it's costing you money. So we need to get a handle on this. This is a big deal. If you've got employees, you better be concerned about their mental health. Otherwise, it's costing your business money. So there are so many trillions of reasons to think about this that should scare you enough. But here's number 3, immune function. Prolonged stress suppresses the immune system, making individuals more susceptible to infections and slower wound healing. So, and I know, Heidi, in your line of work, this also, anybody who's in the health industry, the health, anything that you're dealing with people's mental health, physical health, emotional health, we need to be concerned with their immune function. If they're sick, they're going to miss appointments. They're not going to show up, right? They're not going to be operating at maximum capacity. They're not going to be getting the most out of their workouts. They're not going to be getting the most out of their sessions with you. So there are all kinds of things there. So we've got cardiovascular, mental health, immune function. And here, number 4, and the obvious one to me, cognitive performance. Chronic stress and worry impair memory, focus, decision-making, critical faculties for managers and business owners. Worry leads to fear, guilt, shame, and indecisiveness. That's one of the things. In fact, in my book, The Warpath Alliance, in chapter 3, and it's the A on Warpath, or excuse me, the W, the very first one, chapter 3 covers W. And one of the things that I have in there is a whole section on worry. So one of the things that you have to look out for that is going to attack you, worry, because it makes you wishy-washy, right? It makes you indecisive. You can't make a decision. Well, there's this, there's that. You're thinking about all the different scenarios and you can't make a decision. And leaders, business leaders especially, need to be able to make decisions. So cognitive performance is huge. And here's a great quote. Heather Day Gilbert wrote this, and I actually quoted in my book. An uncertain warrior is no warrior at all. And I would just change that around. An uncertain business person is no business person at all. An uncertain employee is no employee at all. I mean, people have to be decisive. They have to be able to function. And worry is going to affect all of those different things. So it's a big deal. And more people should be talking about this. It's great to get everybody pumped up and mindset and all that stuff. But if we're not dealing with the other components that this is going to gravitate toward and affect, we're doing ourselves a disservice. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of quick stories here about taking action. And sometimes they're not necessarily good stories either, because sometimes it just hurts. So I went through a period, I left an employer many years ago, and I found out that this employer, and I left on good terms, right? So, and I was a model employee. I had made him millions of dollars, and I found out afterward I had left him, and he tried to get me back, and I didn't go back. And so he was a little bit upset at me, I guess, for that, and he started bad-mouthing me. And in my line of work, my reputation, my name, my character is very important. And I worried about it. I thought, what's going to happen here? And I could have kept worrying about it. Instead, I took action steps. And I drafted a legal document. And I went to a lawyer because, again, this is my reputation. And instead of just saying, like, cease and desist, I went on the attack. And I was involved in a 2-year lawsuit, which took a lot more mental anguish and cognitive, emotional energy. But at the same point in time, I did not worry about my name at that point in time, because now it was on him and he was worried about it. And I've got I had to sign an NDA in order to get the whole thing done, but I can tell you somebody wrote a very big check and wasn't happy about it. And that was my way of taking action. My name was involved. It was my character. And it's rather just worry about it. What are the ramifications going to be? I took action. And once I started taking action, I was in the offensive mode. I was no longer on defense. I knew that I had control of the situation and I moved forward with it. And it became a profitable business opportunity. So sometimes it works, but it was stressful. It was stress, but I was in control of that stress. Okay. I wouldn't worry about it anymore. It was just a different kind of stress. The second story is when someone said something derogatory about my wife. And it was in a church setting. We had been going to a small community church. And, you know, I had never been involved. Well, actually, I had. I've seen, witnessed, watched church splits. And they're never good. But there's always something that drives them. And in this case, the minister had said something derogatory from the pulpit to the whole congregation about my wife, who was studying she was taking college classes for her midwifery degree. We had kids at home, various different ages, but we were at a point where my wife was going back to college. She had helped me get through my career. We're now investing in her. She was going to college, and he had something to say about that. And it was, women should not be out, they should stay at home doing this stuff. They shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff. And it angered me. And then I started festering. I started worrying, well, what am I even doing here? If, I'm definitely at odds. And rather than just let it fester, and I talked to him, I went to him and we just disagreed. But at the same point in time, I had invested a lot in this particular congregation, emotionally, spiritually, prayers, financially, the whole works. And I also had angst with how he was running the operation. He was not setting it up as a 501c3. We had lots of tithe money coming in. There were a lot of assets that were purchased with monies over several years. And I didn't think it was right that people who were tithing should be able to get the value back from, tax deductions and that sort of thing. And we disagreed on that. And I knew that we were never going to agree, and that's really the point we came to. And I didn't want to leave because I'd invested in it. He wasn't going to leave because he was vested in it, and he was the pastor. However, there was a course of action I could take. I could have just worried and fretted and festered on all this stuff, but instead I took action. And what I did was I incorporated the church. I filed for 501c3 paperwork. I made myself and a couple of the other leaders in the church, wise men, the members of that corporation, and I took over a church. So then we had, somebody come in to, sit down and try and settle the whole thing. And there was nothing he could do because I and the corporation now owned the church legally by rights. So I turned everything around, but I was so upset with the whole works, I gave it all away. I gave him a portion, the man I had angst with. I said, okay, here it is. You take half, you go do whatever you want to do, but this church exists this way. And it's under this umbrella, this corporate guideline. We're taking half the money, half the assets. You can have the other stuff, do whatever you want. And it was a church split. I mean, we had, negotiator there and the whole works. And it was amazing because within a couple of years, several people who had went with the other pastor came back to me and said, you were right. And we are so sorry. So your success will be your vindication in the end. And that all started because somebody said something derogatory about my wife. That was the catalyst. And again, you can worry, you can fret, you can stress, or you can take action. And when you take action, things happen. And I can tell you that the half of that church that I took over, I gave it away. I literally gave it to somebody else. I said, this is now yours. I'm walking away. I was done. And it was very successful. He led lots of people to health and wellness in spiritual ways. So again, you have to dig your heels in sometimes. And if you're in a rut, if there's something that's bogging you down, you've got to grab the bull by the horns and get into a wrestling match. You've got to go to work on this. So you have to take that action. Again, being anxious, not being anxious for anything, but by prayer and supplication. Prayer and supplication takes work, right? It takes effort. You still have to put the work in to get something out of this. So there's that part. So I'm going to back off. Those are my two stories that I don't know. Not many people, in fact, most people probably don't know either of those stories. But it's one of the things. I don't sit around and let people beat me up, nor should you. Take action. That's the long and the short of it. So here's some of the business and managerial effects of worry. Workplace productivity, we've alluded to that. The American Institute of Stress estimates that workplace stress costs U.S. businesses $300 billion annually. Decision making, the paralysis that I mentioned earlier, it found that 61% of executives reported stress-related decision fatigue. Think about that. 61%. No wonder there's that $300 billion. Leadership effectiveness. Managers under chronic stress are more likely to exhibit lower emotional intelligence, negatively affecting team morale and trust. And those are the kind of people who blow up and end up getting sued by people who don't want to take that crap anymore. So there's that. The health-related costs, which we talked about, health is cardiovascular, mental, immune function, cognitive. 75 to 90% of all doctor visits, according to the American Psychological Association, have to do with stress. 75 to 90% of all related health problems are stress-induced. That's huge, absolutely huge. And then to top that off, we go to burnout rates. The Gallup research indicates that 23% of employees report feeling burned out at work very often or always, with managers reporting the highest levels due to their dual responsibility for their own and their team stress. So think about that. 23% of managers, and we've already talked about, if you're an owner of your business, you are a manager of that business. And yes, Heidi, I can send those references to you. Okay. And you are welcome for that. Some other key statistics, work stress. A 2022 survey from the American Institute of Stress found 83% of US workers experience stress. Not surprising. 35% citing their manager as the primary source of the stress. Now, you think anybody who's out there who has employees now, or if you are an employee of somebody else, you better have a good relationship with your manager or you're going to end up on this end of it. And that is not a good place to be. So now we're going to go to small business owners. 72% of small business owners reported stress affecting their personal well-being, and 60% cited financial pressure as a major cause. So here's the other thing, and I'm going to just touch on this briefly. You need to get a handle on your finances and the importance of your finances, and that is mindset. You need to, that's why a business plan, Jim and I talk about this all the time. A business plan is critical. If you don't have a business plan to help you navigate your financial future with your business, especially a financial business plan, that financial component of that, you are doing yourself a disservice and setting yourself up for failure. I mean, those numbers are just way too high to even be toying around with that stuff. You can't be toying around with business. It's too important, and it will come at a cost. So here are the 8 strategies to address worry. All right. To mitigate the impact of worry with individuals and organizations, you can implement these practices right away. Number 1, and the most important, mindfulness, an attitude of embracing change. That's part of it. You just don't, oh, I see someone's getting notes out. Notebook ready. Number one, it's just mindfulness, being aware, right? Being aware that worry is there, stress is there, anxiety is there, but you have to make a mental choice that you are not going to be ruled by it, that you are going to be controlling it. Okay. And embracing an attitude of change. You've got to be willing to change. You have to be that change agent, and you have to be able to embrace change. What causes most people to worry? Change, right? Big moves, business moves, new product lines, that's all change. Just embrace it, but it's mindset. So the mindfulness component is first and foremost on the list. Number two, and by the way, most of these things that we're going to deal with, these 8 topics, are already have been dealt with in depth in some of our other lessons, if you go back in and look at them. Number two, better time management. These are things you can work with your family, your spouse, your kids, your teenagers, right? Do you think teenagers are stressed today? College kids are stressed. We know it. So these will help everyone. Better time management for number two. Number three, eliminate negative input. And I'm not just talking about the news. I'm not just talking about friends. Part of it is studies. I've cited a lot of these studies, right? Now, here's what, now that I've said that, I'm going to say this about that. Don't believe what they say. All right? That doesn't have to be you. In other words, when you look at those statistics, it doesn't mean that you're a part of that statistic, right? 72% of small business owners report stress. You don't have to be that 72%. You can be the percentage that's not under stress. So don't partner with the negative components of what they say, what the experts say, what the data sets say. Be the exception. In fact, I heard somebody the other day say, how did it go? Why would you want to spend your time fitting in when you can stand out? Be the exception. Okay? And my favorite, and I've heard somebody say this, and I've been using it for years now, with genetics. Well, you're genetically predisposed to whatever. And my reply, once I heard it, was this: it ran in the family until it ran into me. Be the place where it stops. Yeah. My son actually this weekend was telling me that he had just watched a documentary on heart disease, and something I know a little bit about. And he was talking about in a particular gene that they have identified. And with this gene, if you have a crease on your earlobe, a little crease on the lower earlobe, it's that crease is linked to the same gene that triggers heart disease. So if you've got that little thing, you're predisposed to heart disease. And one son has it, the other doesn't. I have it. And I was actually, we had relatives over this weekend from a whole different part of the family. And he's had some stents and some other issues. And he has the crease on his ear, totally different bloodline. So is there something there? There might be. But the other thing that I know about genetics is that there has to be a trigger. You can be predisposed genetically to something, including certain cancers, but there has to be a trigger to make the switch click on. So being aware and making the right choices can stop that trigger from that switch from being flipped on. So again, even if it's genetic, it ran in the family until it ran into me. I'm doing things differently. So there's that. Number 4, clear communication. This is for between you and your client. I know Jim has talked about this when he has a new coaching client or a consulting client. There's a contract involved. Here are the expectations. This is what I will do. This is what I expect you to do. This is how we're going to navigate through this. Clear communication in a relationship, clear communication with your kids. when my children were growing up, we had a thing that the privileges had to equal the responsibility. It was that simple. You want to go do these things, you have to have equal amounts of responsibility. There was clear communication. They knew what our expectations were. There was no gray area. There's no, well, I didn't know, or I thought. So clear communication. Too many relationships dissolve, dwindle, hit the rocks because there's just not clear communication. Number 5, and again, these are strategies to address worry, anxiety, stress. Nature. There is nothing like getting outside. There is nothing like fresh air. You don't have to go for a jog. You don't have to go for a run, but you do need to get outside. You need to experience some sun, some fresh air. Water is good. Trees are great, especially when they're full on photosynthesis mode. Great things happen there. So just being out in nature will help get the worry out. Number 6, I love this one, pets. Animal therapy. And I hate it that I had to throw this in there. I have animal therapy / and children. And I'm not saying go get a child. What I'm saying is if you look at the world through children's eyes, with their sense of wonder, with everything is new, they don't get hung up over stupid things that we get hung up over. If you can start looking at children, go past a playground, watch them play kickball. Not when they get to middle school and they start to be mean kids, but watch children, because I mean it's therapeutic to see the world through their eyes, through that innocence. So animal therapy and children, and I'm not lumping them together like animals. Okay, number 7, movement. Okay. If you are going to go outside, you just as well go for a walk. If you're going to go for a walk, you just well do some squats, do some duck walking, find a tree limb and do a chin up or 2, movement, get your body going. And even if you're sitting at a desk all day, get up and walk around. I mean, you find a rhythm, set a timer and get up and move. Movement will help alleviate worry and stress. And number 8, and I love this, tap resources for stress management. I don't care what those are. There are all kinds of helpful things. There are grounding bed sheets, grounding mats. There are foot massagers you can put under your desk. There are tuning forks with different frequencies. There's mood music. There's so many different stress management tools you can use in your own home environment or work environment. And there are also coaching and wellness programs. And the biggest thing here is you are not alone. Everybody goes through periods of stress. Everybody does. You're not alone. And that's what I love about Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. We're part of not just a coaching group, but we're a wellness program, right? We're a business wellness program. Never thought of it quite like that before, but that's what we are. We are here to help you in every facet of your business wellness, and it starts with you. So those are the 8 key points again: mindfulness, better time management, eliminate negative input, clear communication, get into nature, pets or animal therapy, kids, movement, and tap resources for stress management. It seems kind of simple, it's kind of basic, but they're the reminders that all of us need. And Heidi, you said here, where is it? Genetics load the gun, and our thoughts, food action, pull the trigger. Boy, you are 100% right. Absolutely. Jim, I see you out there. Go ahead and unmute.
Yep, we're good. So I'm gonna balance and feed my family, but I just wanted to say what a great topic. Covered very well, Rod, because first of all, if you're faith-based, it's a sin to worry, put things in God's hands. So you kind of went down that road. But on the other side, from a business perspective, you're not doing yourself any favors by worrying or anybody else. And that includes the stress that's inflicted through worry and all those other things. I do want to say, since Heidi's live on the call tonight, that if you're looking for a way to reduce that stress, find a trainer, get healthy, get in a groove, and start building from the inside out. And she can talk all about that on one-on-one calls with you. And I just really would encourage people to focus on their health and working on things that way. So Rod, thanks for sharing your stories. Great topic. Love all these calls. You know, the ones I'm not leading. It's great to get another perspective, especially from somebody with so much background as you, Rod. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Jim. Thank you. All right, Heidi, I'm going to kick it over. This is in your wheelhouse. I know that this is right in your wheelhouse. So I would love some of your input on here, even a story of how you can change lives, literally by alleviating worry and stress.
Well, I just really appreciate the gift, like being able to have you know, your experience, strength, and hope, and Jim's and Rachel's, you know, because uh, by me giving myself a gift and, you know, paying the money and showing up with my time and effort to be here with you, I can lean into a like-minded person, someone that's been there, done that. And I find absolute factual, you know, information that, like, find someone who has what you want, do what they do, you'll get what they got, right? Like, I can't go to somebody else that's never been there and done that and ask them for anything because they haven't experienced it. So I'm just so grateful for this platform because it is literally the truths of a well human to be surrounded by like-minded people. And so that I'm just grateful for, because for me personally, I mean, you might be asking me for my own professional feedback, but I'm actually going to go to just being honest about what it feels like to be a human being, you know, trying to grow a business, especially after I've just moved. Because I had
Right.
such a huge groove going and it was flowing. And now I've picked up, and it's still in the state of Montana, but there's something about that energy, right? Like I had something going on, it was growing, it was going, it was grooving. And now I've switched and it's dwindled with there just is. And
Yeah.
yes, I've kept things going. Yes, I have things to keep going, but there's just like a bit of grief and sadness in that, because I'm now looking at the wall going, okay, what do I need to do? Or what does this look like? Or how do I do this? Because a lot of my business has been based upon, you know, me and my
Yes.
energy, and the following being predicated upon, wow, look at that. I want that. And so I'm a new kid on the block. I'm walking in like I did from Lakeside, Montana as a freshman in high school from a rural town, going into Flathead High School and not knowing anybody. That's exactly what I feel like being here in Billings. And yes, I've made connections. Yes, I have clients, but it's just different. And so worry. Oh yes, I'm worried.
Don't worry, take action.
Oh, Rod, I am. Like,
I
you
know
guys,
you are.
like this.
Yes.
Tyson, I am like Mark Wahlberg in that one movie where he's like the gambler. I swear to God right now. And I just got to take a deep breath, because God does do for us and he shows up. And I think sometimes I get frustrated because God's like, hey, you know, just take a deep breath, sit still for a minute, all is well. And I'm like, what? No, I want to go faster. I want to go harder. I want this to rain down now. And it's not like that.
Doggone it. You know, here's something. This will make you and all the listeners feel better also. Lamborghini. I read this just today. Did you see this?
No,
Lamborghini. What do we know? What's Lamborghini, Heidi?
it's amazing. And it's a very expensive, fancy sports car.
Exotic
Exotic.
sports car.
Like, how do we even get into one? I don't know, but wow.
Okay, let's back up. Lamborghini started off making tractors. All right. Evolution.
Yeah.
But we have to change. Do you think it was hard for them to say, who was it who came in and said, hey, let's build a sports car
Yeah.
instead of a tractor, right? Come on, we're going from agriculture to urban. I mean, that's talk about switch. We need to be open to change and not worry. And you know, I look at what you do and your business, and I think there are so many untapped niches.
Yeah.
And you know, you're going to find a spot where it just explodes. And
Okay.
right now you're already, you had a spot where you were comfortable and you were in the groove.
Yeah.
And now you're in a whole new domain. So I'm telling you, you're going from tractor to Lamborghini now. You had a great tractor business here in the Flathead. You're going into Lamborghini mode. So what's it going to take? What you're going to have to think different. You're going to have to start, man, seeding some new fields, you know,
Yeah.
and no GMO seeds. You're going back to natural stuff here. And I even think of, and I mentioned this in a conversation with you earlier, when I was going through cardiac rehabilitation, it was and I know what they were billing my insurance company. It was outrageous. And I was so disappointed in anything and everything that they were giving me. It's like, oh, here's some machines. Here's how you track your stuff. I got nothing out of it. And they could have continued getting a lot more of my money if they would have at least offered more of a service. So, I mean, there are people who, especially younger, mostly fit people who have had cardiac events that are not being served that would love a better program. I know there's more out there than me, a lot more out there than me. And there are a lot of women on the cusp that don't even know that they've got cardiac problems. And then for a lot of them, it's going to be too late. So finding identifiers, you know, you could find a niche, create that niche that turns your business into Lamborghini, and then take that. You've already got it laid out to go nationwide with that program. I mean, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's because that's what I know. You know, but how many other niches are out there? How many other people need what everybody needs what you have, but how do we tap them? How do we find those things? How does anybody listening to this call take their business from point A to point D, right? We've got to get to that next stop. And the thing that's going to keep us hung up is the worrying about the little things, worrying about this, worrying about that, and having anxiety because we're always comparing one thing to another. You're comparing what you had here before. Hey, it was great. Put it in a scrapbook now. File it away. You know, I've got lots of scrapbooks. You know, I was reinventing myself every 5 years. You can do that too. It's just one step to another to another. Have fun. Have fun with it. And remember this, to take your own advice. You know, take your own advice. And you're going to do great. So there's that. I love what you do. I like how you're helping people and you're making a difference. And you've embraced this whole change thing. You're a great mentor to all of the other people on our calls. And I appreciate you for that. And I appreciate the business you've already built because you have helped a lot of us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I'm wide open to our community here for any coaching, health, wellness, nutrition. I mean, give me a holler anytime. I'm here for you. And I am super grateful. And I take all those words. Those are answered prayers. So thank you. Thank you, Rod.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Well, we won't take any more time. We don't have anyone else on the call. They get to listen to it and they didn't get the live. So, you know, just go out there and attack it. Just attack it fresh.
Yeah.
Every day's a new day.
Yeah. Tomorrow I've got 2 brand new clients. I'm going into their home and training them. And then on Friday, a new client and I'm training them in their home. So, you know, I'm available. I'm ready to work. Let's go.
Absolutely. Absolutely love it, Heidi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon. Oh, and by the way, Heidi has a special going on right now. If you're listening to this in the next couple of days, specials always save you money.
A lot of money. Okay.
Ton of money. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good night.